Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Creating Tailwinds Podcast by Flight Path Financial with your hosts, John Urbick and Jared Adams. Join us today as we discuss the power of infinite banking. And here we go.
Hello, John. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Jared, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's a great day. Good day here. Got some beautiful weather finally. Like, it was so cold and so gloomy. It's like I'm not living in New York. It's cold. Cold. It's cold. Don't get me wrong. I just can't deal with that 10 days of cloudiness. Like, I grew up south of Buffalo, New York. I know what that looks like for 3 months on end. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But the crystal clear blue sky, I don't care if it's 40 degrees. I'm loving it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it's not 40 degrees when you're wearing a 45-pound rucksack. I went and bought one of those rucksacks to get my my knee back in shape so I can go ski. I started out with a mile, 2, 3, now I'm up to 4 miles. Man, that's a workout. It doesn't feel like it's 40 degrees outside, trust me.
You're a better man than I. I can't hang. I've got a good buddy, shout out Biggie, who's a 100-miler. He can run those things like it's going out of style. I don't know how he does it.
Well, it takes persistence for sure. You have to train up to that. That's awesome. My son Anthony does that extreme stuff, and thanks, my knees can't handle it anymore.
I can't hang. Well, by the time this episode hits the airways, it's now the beginning of 2026.
Crazy, huh?
Welcome, brand new year. We just made it through the holiday season. Thanksgiving and Christmas is behind us. New Year's is behind us. We spent all the money we ever thought we had, making sure everybody was happy. And now here we are. Let's talk about some liquidity.
Liquidity is an awesome topic and so misunderstood.
Also, agreed.
So misunderstood.
Yep.
Yeah. Liquidity, I mean, it's nothing more than your ability to meet current financial demands. What does your liquidity look like? And it looks different to different people, but you know, one of the measures, Jared, that's a good one is your personal liquidity ratio. It's something financial planners talk about, but really all it is you take all your available cash securities that are readily disposable. How much money can you raise quickly? And you divide that by your total monthly expenses. That's your personal liquidity ratio. So if you're burning $7,000 a month and you've got $21,000 sitting in the bank, your liquidity ratio is 3, right? Guy that I respect, Charlie Munger, who shouldn't respect him for his financial acumen, he talks about 6 months. So everyone should look at their own personal monthly burn and say, okay, if I had to step away from all this and I don't have any income for 6 months, how's that look? And for most people, I'm sure some listening in on this podcast, they're going to see that they're coming up short. And you and I would like to address how they can fix that.
Now, just for the example of what that would look like in terms of liquid assets, a house would not be considered a liquid asset. A stock or a bond could fall into that, but you've got to sell it. You've got to move it. Is there a tax consequence? So I don't think that that's a liquid asset just by the amount that you have to move and you could pay in penalties, taxes, fees, or otherwise to get it. When we're talking liquid asset, we're just typically talking about cash in a bank or something that you have access to quick. You say, I need funds right now because of an emergency. I need to have that either in my checking account or however the method is that it shows up, the ability to have cash now. That's what you're referring to in terms of liquidity. Would I say that right?
That's right. Yeah. Brokerage accounts is, it used to be T+3. Now it's T+2. They moved it. So you got to wait for 2 days for it to clear it. And then however long it takes for them to move the money into your account, it can be some time, especially if you're looking at a weekend in there. If you got a private account with a treasury, some people do that. And they hold treasuries in an account. You can sell treasuries. That's pretty liquid. Everything you just said, plus maybe treasuries.
A HELOC might be considered liquid, even though you're going to pay interest on it. You've got a HELOC that could be readily available. Maybe you haven't used any of it. And there's
but think about that though. Somebody's house is worth $600,000 today. We have seen market downdrafts, right? Market softens, unemployment goes up, interest rates go up. So it kind of slows the market down. That's kind of the problem we have right now, right? People aren't moving their houses nearly as fast.
Yeah.
So you can have a situation where in order to sell your house, what do you got to do? You got to drop the price. And so that begins a cascading event, which can affect a lot of people. And it could be localized. It could be regional. It could go national.
That's fair.
And what happened?
You might have a HELOC that's open that they've already determined the value on, regardless if the asset
But
may
they can amend that though. They
that's
can
fair.
amend it.
They can
HELOC
amend.
the next day. I guarantee you, for anybody who's got a HELOC out there, if we had a market correction like we had in 2008, I guarantee you they're gonna they're gonna just shrink those things right down.
That's fair.
There's one place that you can go though where that will never ever happen. Any ideas?
Well, I think we've talked about it here before. Life insurance contracts come to mind.
Life insurance is the highest hanging fruit, guaranteed to be there when you need it most. That's the beautiful thing about it.
We're gonna have to spool off of this and talk even more into as we develop this next year's content. And I can't wait to talk more about it. But there's things like, bank owned life insurance, corporate owned life insurance. Anybody that's got large amount of assets is protecting their money through life insurance.
You bet they are.
Can the average Joe, can they still do that? Certainly they can. Might
Well,
have a few less zeros behind it, but it's still got the same contract. It's still got the same verbiage.
you know whose favorite business life insurance is? Warren
I'm going to
Buffett's.
guess Buffett.
Buffett. Buffett
Yep.
loves life insurance because it's a great business model. So if you
Slow and
listen to
steady, right?
yeah, and if
Yep.
you listen to he and Charlie Munger talk, they talk about, well, it's a very simple formula if you want to get wealthy. You buy great companies at a fair price and you hold on to them. What do we have here? We've got great companies. You're buying them at a very fair price and you own them by way of they are mutual companies. And
Yep.
by virtue of the construct, you have an ownership stake in some of the best companies in America that are very profitable, that are very solid. They've been in business for well over 100 years, paying a dividend the whole time, and that
Sure.
dividend is tax-free. That comes to you. What a great way to store money and let it sit. And when you need it most, it's there. It's
Yep.
such a simple, simple formula that I wish everybody would become familiar with, because once you figure it out, there's no going back. It's a smart, smart way to manage your money. Cash
Yeah, I
flow,
mean,
cash
when
flow, cash flow.
you talk about liquidity, it doesn't get any more liquid than that.
It does
I mean,
not.
the last time I accessed the cash value of our life insurance account, I went online to the portal, I requested an amount, and 3 business days later, it was in my checking account. That doesn't get much more liquid than that.
You're familiar with Pampered Chef, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people, cooks,
Yep.
love Pampered Chef. We have a bunch of it too. I didn't know this until recently, but the lady who started that company, she started it with a $3,000 loan against her life insurance contract. Did not know that, and it sold it for $1.5 billion.
Wow.
Not a bad use of opportunity cost.
Sure.
Now, she could have had that money stuffed away in some qualified plan that she couldn't get a hold of, but it was there readily available for her. And
Yep.
that's what we bring to the table. But great businesses, fair price, and you own them and you hold them. It's a beautiful thing. So you gotta let capital flow. You gotta let capital work, and it can either work for you in your column, or your capital can work for somebody else in their column, and they give
Yep.
you a little tiny bit. And
Yep.
that's the model that we live under right now with the U.S. banking system. And you and I believe there's a far better way of deploying that capital.
At least in a spot where you control it. If I have it in a treasury or if I rely on their decision-making process, I have no idea what rules they're gonna change or even what rules they're playing by.
Right.
Whereas if I know that it's an amount that increases every single year, guaranteed, that I know where the increases are headed and which way they're going in my control. So it's not just the ability to have liquidity, but the ability to control that liquidity.
Well, there's so many benefits to having great liquidity that people don't even think about. Just peace of mind. One of the big negative health risks out there is stress. And
Yeah.
the number one stressor is finance. So if you could do something about that, even to mitigate it, you're having a direct positive impact on your stress level, which means you're having a direct positive impact on your health. This is about you. This is about taking care of yourself. And if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't take care of your health, if you don't take care of your mental health, nobody else is going to do that for you.
Yeah.
And this
Yep.
provides a platform to make that so much more easily attainable.
Sure. Yes.
So
To hit the easy button and reduce the stress.
it really does. So it gives you And it doesn't it the other thing that it does that's very interesting is when you have liquidity, when some sudden expense pops up, rather than having to finance it with somebody else's dollars or using cash and giving up the future opportunity costs of your own dollars, you can use a collateralized lien against your life insurance cash values. Your money stays in there. It never goes anywhere. It's still building, compounding year over year over year. One of
Yep.
the key things is uninterrupted compounding interest. We've talked about that a bunch of times. But when you can have access to that capital, my gosh, it just puts you in a position of financial strength, and you're not forced to either pay cash that you don't want to give up, and it doesn't force you to sell perhaps great assets
Yep.
that may be down.
Sure.
What if the stock market, your favorite stock that you buy, it swoons and it's down 15%, and you're like, I need 5 grand, so I'm going to sell 5 grand of the stock. Well, you just sold it at the current low, and
Sure.
you're forced into doing that. What a great thing to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I've got plenty of capital right here. I'm going to tap this.
That's right. That's right.
You just can't beat the financial flexibility that and the liquidity that a properly built, properly structured, dividend-paying whole life insurance contract can give you.
And how crazy that the founder of Infinite Banking Concepts, Nelson Nash, would have just kind of stumbled over this.
He did.
He had no idea. He didn't set out to build Infinite Banking Concepts at the time, but he stumbled on realizing what he built in a crisis. He didn't build it for a crisis. He just thought he was paying for life insurance the way
Yeah.
everybody else would. And yet
Well,
he stumbled on it.
it's funny. Since I stopped, and this is a personal choice, people can do as they wish, but I'm such a big believer in building my assets inside of these contracts versus putting into a qualified plan. I stopped putting money into my qualified plan because it's just taxes deferred, and it's probably I'm putting in my most expensive dollars today for dollars that are devalued down the road, and hoping that I don't get walloped with some future tax rate. We have uh, uh, runaway debt problem right now. If you look at the debt meter on the country, I mean, $38.5 trillion. That is the scariest part of the whole thing. And I don't want to be caught in that crossfire, and I'm not going to be, nor will you, because we're prepared. And this is one of the ways you can be prepared, because you're in an asset class which will ride with that.
That's right.
So if inflation takes off, your dividends are going to track up with it. They will,
Yep.
because they're in the instruments which benefit from that. So it's just an awesome place to be. Highly, I couldn't more highly recommend talking to Jared or myself and have that discussion and how you could benefit from this,
Right.
especially
That's
in
right.
2026. It's going to be a
Yes.
big year. It's going to be a big
It'll be
year
great.
in the financial markets, and you mark my words, it's going to get crazy.
Yep. Yep.
But it could be good for you if you prepare for it.
That's right. That's right. Well, what other, I know you mentioned the test, the amount of liquidity you have based on the amount of costs that you're spending in a month. Are there other formulas or ideas that go towards the liquidity side of things on how you can?
Yeah, it gets into some other things, but one of the things is people look at. I'll just go into toward retirement now for the
Sure.
older guys.
Sure.
My segment of the population. Everybody's looking at retirement, and they're chasing
Yep.
constantly bigger and bigger numbers.
Exactly.
And Munger's got a really interesting. I read a couple books that he had written
Yep.
not long ago, and he talks about attacking the denominator. And by that, he meant how much money you need divided by your how much money you need a year, right? Maybe the number used to be $2 million. You got $2 million. I'm going to burn $100,000 a year, and that's going to take me 20 years. Now, of course, there's no appreciation. This is just for sake of argument.
Yep.
So whatever that number is, you can back it in, and it'll tell you how much money you need. And so it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you talk to some people, and you look at their numbers, it's $6-7 million. This is crazy. Most people can't do $6 or $7 million. What can you do? According to Munger, he goes, you're looking in the wrong place. You got to invert the equation. You got to look at the denominator. Do you need to spend that much money? Do you need two of the nicest cars? He does an example on an executive who goes and leases a luxury automobile for $60,000 a year, for $60,000, and he turns this car 3 times over his career. Had he taken that $60,000 3 times and put it into a diversified, not a diversified, but a stock portfolio, for instance.
Sure.
And say you got 10,
something easy.
He used 10%. I don't know if you're going to get 10%, but in his
Sure.
math, 10%. It
Yep.
represented in total was about a little over $400,000 over 20 years, $1.2 million just for the luxury of paying somebody for the use of their nice vehicle. Is
Wow.
that worth it? When you
Well, I mean,
begin to add
could
up
be.
these
Maybe
numbers,
maybe you got $10 million sitting there, and that's not a big deal for you. But maybe there's not a lot of folks that are in that ballpark, and so you got to mess with the denominator.
most people don't have $2 million right now. The lion's share of the country can't come up with a $10,000 immediate expense. They would be financing that. And what we can offer is a smart approach to managing those future contingencies where you're not going to be in a box. You're not going to be in a position where you have to liquidate at the bottom. You're not going to be in a position where you have to distribute all your available capital. Cash flow and access to liquidity is vitally important. It's more so in a down economy than it is in an up economy. You know, there's jobs aplenty when everything is going great guns, but look at the downside. My dad always used to say that. He goes, tell me how to get into the deal. Tell me how to get out of the deal. What's the downside?
Yes.
And when you look at the downside on things, it's not being negative, it's being prudent. And you use these products, this asset class, to protect yourself from a contingency that you know is coming, but we just don't know when. Something, and I look out at 2026, I'm licking my chops because I've been building cash like crazy. And I'm totally convinced there's going to be some phenomenal opportunities in 26.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Sure. And
that's how it
the other
rolls.
awesome opportunity about that is when you have liquidity, the opportunities find those
They do.
with capital. The opportunities will find them. Now, you choose whether or not you deploy those or not, and you choose whether, where your risk tolerance is, whether you're risk averse or not right now, and you get to choose that, which is a great power position that you're the one that's in control. And yet the opportunities will find those with capital.
Yeah. And at the same time, balancing that with enjoying life. You got to enjoy
Yeah.
life too. And there's different ways of how you're going to do that. You could spend a ton of money enjoying life, or you can spend a little bit of money and have people time with your family, your friends. Those things are really, really important. I thought it was comical how Munger put, he goes, at my age, he's 99 years old. He passed away. He said, 99 years old, you don't buy green bananas. I go, that's like that one.
Like
It might
that.
have started
Well
with George Burns, but I don't know. Maybe he pirated that line, but it's still a good line.
Well, that's awesome. Well, a quick buzz here on the liquidity. Anything we left out? Anything to add?
No, I just think it's one of those topics that everybody's looking at rate of return. They're looking at diversification. They're looking at even tax consequences, but liquidity, something as basic as that, putting some cash, having some cash on the side. I think Berkshire Hathaway, they have more liquidity right now. They've got, I want to say it's like $360 billion in cash in their fund. Billion. That's more than Apple, Microsoft. You tick off the big seven. It's more than these 7 companies combined have in cash on the books right now. He is
Sure.
heavy. They are heavy into cash right now. Why? Because maybe something's going to happen and there's going to be opportunities in 2026. I don't know.
Yes. Yes.
But we can be ready, and the folks out there can be ready with us too. It's never too late to get ready.
And the part that gets understated or left out in this discussion of liquidity, since we're really focusing on the cash value of these policies, is even at the end, when you do graduate, you're passing on a life-changing amount of money to your heirs. Now, we focus on the living benefits. We understand our need for capital is greater while we're alive than when we're dead. But yet, when that does happen, whenever you do graduate, that's one of the other bedrocks of these products, is that you're passing along a considerable amount of finance to your heirs, whatever that looks like, wherever your beneficiaries are, whether it's a foundation, a church, a nonprofit, maybe it's wife and kids, maybe it's some other family, whatever you choose that to be, that's also included. And that can't go understated as well.
Yeah, no, I've got some friends that have really put themselves under the gun to try to pay off their mortgages on their homes before they retire, for instance. And they're sitting on 3% mortgages. I'm thinking, all right, well, there's 2 things there that you're missing. One of them is that certainly your tax bracket should come down. So that tax benefit of the interest on that mortgage is going to be gone. And if you take that lump sum of, say you got 300 grand sitting on the side to pay it off, that 300 grand is not available. You might consider putting that 300 grand in a place that if you wanted to, sure, you could always take out the mortgage, but why not keep that as a liquid asset? Doesn't matter that you retire. It's the management of that capital. And you are making more with now interest rates on mortgages hitting 6, sometimes 7%, and you're at 3%. They're paying you to hold the paper. Keep the mortgage. Keep the
Yes.
deduction.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
I,
So,
I just had a conversation about that with a close friend, talking about the mindset shift of the wealthy to the middle class and the poor. And I
right.
say middle class and poor in the same sense in that they can't wait to get out of debt.
Yep.
Where in some cases debt is okay.
Uh,
Debt could be a good thing. Now, a 23% credit card debt is not a
No,
good thing.
no.
Not in any stream. A 3% mortgage, that's not a bad thing. I would pay the absolute minimum on that and let that go for as long as possible. Someone's going to say, well, you're going to get crushed over the life of that loan in terms of what you've paid in interest. Okay, great. What did I make with what I didn't pay them? So
That's exactly the point that most people miss.
but you've got to think in a different way, right? You've got to rethink your thinking to allow just a different mindset to creep in to be able to understand where that comes from. It's not complex. We're not talking hard math. You can run the numbers via an Excel spreadsheet to see where that goes. But if you're doing better than 3% elsewhere and it's liquid, that's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, but the second part of that is what's so attractive to me. It's not just the low interest rate relative to what you're getting.
Yep.
It's access to the capital. Let's say
Sure.
a guy's 65 years old. He's got a couple $100,000 sitting in cash, and he wants to knock off the rest of the mortgage. Yeah, I mean, is it a bad decision? No, it's not a bad decision, but I think there's might be a better one to consider, and that's to put it in a place where he can have access to that capital. What if the week after he pays off his mortgage, hooray, it's gone. I'm debt free. Ring the bell. Wonderful. Now, all of your equity, all of your capital is buried inside of that brick and mortar. And your spouse has a significant medical event. And now you need $75,000 or $80,000 to cover this. Where's that money going to come from? If you go right back to that same bank that you just paid off and say, here's the mortgage, here's the application for a loan. And they're going to run you through the whole loan process, and you're going to pay ridiculous interest rates when you had it available to you 2 weeks ago, and you could have used that capital.
Spot on. That's a perfect example.
So no, yeah, but this happens all the time.
Yeah.
It truly does. And people do not understand that debt, yep, I don't like debt either, but the right kind of debt in comparison to paying it off makes more sense to carry than to take it down.
Oh, yeah.
Other than having the peace of mind. Well, you can be debt free and not have two pennies to rub together, or you could be covering or carrying a debt load that you could easily handle and have access to all kinds of capital. Where do you want to be?
When Elon bought Twitter, did he do so by selling his Tesla shares, or did he do so by leveraging his Tesla shares? He leveraged them. He said, I need a X million-dollar loan to pay for the purchase of this company. And to do so, and if I default, you can have these shares and those are my leverage. That's no different with a lot less zeros of what you're doing in these type of a concepts. You've built up an asset that has a value and you say, I need cash today. And they go, okay, well, we're going to use that as leverage. God forbid something happens to you and you can't pay this loan. The death benefit from your life will pay for the portion that you've borrowed outside of what it's going to pay your heirs. There's still going to be plenty more that gets passed on. But for that loan portion, that's the collateral. It's no different, except you're using your life instead of the Tesla shares.
Right on point. There was a famous mortgage given to Mark Zuckerberg at 1%, 30-year mortgage. Like Mark Zuckerberg needs a mortgage, but he
Right.
took it. Why? Because he got the money at 1%. 30-year mortgage on a $10 million home. He
Yep.
probably put $3 down. So why did he do that? It's because of the use of the money. You can make the argument, oh, he doesn't need to worry about paying it off. But the point is, he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He's leveraging one resource so he has access to a better resource later.
Right.
$10 million for 1%. I'll do that for 30 years all day long. I'll do 3% for 30 years all day long.
Yes.
Because I don't think we're going to see interest rates. Who knows? But I mean, to see the rates that we saw during the whole COVID fiasco,
That's right.
I don't think that's going to happen again. Now
Yep.
with 38 $0.5 trillion of debt and running like crazy. I don't think it's going to happen. They're going to go higher, not lower. So why not be in a position where you can take advantage of that and your money benefits from that rather than give your most expensive today dollar to somebody and then they're going to pay you back tomorrow with a cheaper dollar. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So those are the thoughts.
I love it. Well, thanks again for getting together. Always a pleasure. Welcome to 2026.
2026. Woohoo!
Very prosperous, excellent year ahead for you, for both you and for everyone that tunes in. We appreciate those that take a couple of minutes to join us. And awesome 2026 to you.
Great 2026, Jared. Let's go get it. Enjoying it.
Have a great day, John. Cheers.
You too, Jared. Thank you. We'd like to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Creating Tailwinds Podcast with your hosts, John and Jared. As always, we welcome your questions and critiques. You can reach us through the Contact Us tab at flightpathfinancial.com. Remember, it's all about how you think. As Nelson Nash has said about infinite banking, give it your close attention, and it can make a radical improvement in your financial future.